Today, I'm in conversation with Lordwick Mushawa, the Managing Director of the Nyaradzo Group UK and Europe. I go beyond the headlines and beyond the sensational. If you enjoy this UK series, brought to you in partnership with the Nyaradzo Group, please remember to subscribe, to like, and to share. Let's get down to some work. Greetings! Welcome to In Conversation with Trevor UK series, brought to you by the Nyaradzo Group. I go beyond the headlines and beyond the sensational. If you enjoy this series, remember to subscribe, to like, and to share. Let's get down to some work. Lordwick Mushawa, welcome to In Conversation with Trevor.
Thank you, Trevor, for having me on the UK series.
You know, we're so grateful for the partnership that we've struck, and coming to the UK, you guys have given us an opportunity to sit down with some of the most amazing Zimbabweans who are in the diaspora. We've enjoyed our conversation. So, Lordwick and the team, we're very grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor.
Talk to me about why you thought you should do this. Why do you think we should have this partnership and do this kind of thing?
Well, Trevor, this was not the first time we have worked with your team. And the last series that we did get a lot of interest from people that the caliber of candidates that we brought to the series then was very good in terms of the production, the input, and the community. Because I think we share the same values where we want to see Zimbabwe get better. And the only people who can do that is Zimbabweans. And we think your show is the right forum to tap into that Zimbabwean community so that we can all grow and get our country better.
Fantastic. I mean, we share a vision, I think, and that vision is nation building.
Yes.
How better to build Zimbabwe than telling the stories of Zimbabweans from their own journeys and their stories. So thank you so much for that. I've been watching the Nyaradzo Group since the group started in 2001. What an amazing journey. You guys have deliberately built a brand that I admire and quite a lot of people admire. I want you now, Lordwick, to take us through the overview of the Nyaradzo Group operation since 2001.
Thank you, Trevor, for that question. Well, Nyaradzo, as the name says, it signifies somebody who is a comforter. We now have added the adage Sahwira to mean that we are your partner. So our founding group CEO, Mr. Mataranyika, he always had a vision to support his community, starting with the people that he knew. And before long, when he left Old Mutual, his idea was to provide a company or organization that can reach out to our Zimbabweans, especially when they have lost their loved one. I think his experiences during funerals was always what he talks about. People sleeping in the car, no toilets, it's somber, everyone is crying. And his vision was to make the experience, to reduce the loss or the burden for the people that would be crying. So that formed the start of Nyaradzo in 2001. And since then, we have grown to a financial services unit covering things like agriculture. We are into tourism.
Before you go there, I'm going to stop you there and say we're going to go into the expansion and stuff.
Yes.
But my first encounter with the Nyaradzo Group was 7 years ago. I lost a nephew and traveled to Bulawayo. I was still based in South Africa. Traveled to Bulawayo for the funeral. I was blown away, honestly, by the professionalism, by the empathy of the team. And I think I picked up the phone and spoke to Philip and said, "How did you do this? This is amazing. You are mourning, you are in this very vulnerable place, and you get to the Bulawayo offices in the industrial sites, and these people welcome you in such a manner that you feel part of the burden removed. How have you guys been able to do that?"
I think is our, payoff line. It's services, strength, and solution. So what we have said is all we want to do is provide solutions to our community. And one of those things we noticed was that during a funeral, people are at their lowest. You need to believe in someone to take care of things. And this is where Nyaradzo have actually edged its place in people's hearts. We reduce that burden, the loss, and what we have done over the years is to try and instill, demystify death to people, to say, look, if you are burying your nephew or relative, let's look at what we have enjoyed with those people when they were alive. Celebrate
Let's turn
people.
it into a celebration.
Turn it into a celebration. Okay, we always get hurt when we lose the young ones. We have not gone through life. But most of the time, our culture never thought someone would actually go. So we have said we want to celebrate people when they go and live their life and celebrate what they have achieved. And so over the years now, we have seen a turn where now our funerals are becoming a celebration of life. And that's why I think you saw when you got to our parlor there in Donington, the people there understand that you are at your lowest and we need to be your Sahwiras so that we can lessen the burden.
Which is a contrast to, we were chatting before we started recording, our experience when we were young in the townships in Magwegwe. Funeral was a sad moment. Mourning was something else. I'm trying to look for a word to describe. But in the township, the moment we got told that there was a funeral or number whatever, we avoided that place.
Oh yes,
we stopped playing music around. But another thing that happened, Lordwick, is that if you met a hearse, a funeral hearse on the road, you'd stop and park by the side. If you're cycling, you'd get off your bike and stop and respect the person that is being carried. That doesn't happen anymore. And it's interesting. I mean, we're recording in your offices, and I was saying to you how I've become comfortable with the fact that death is part of life. How have you dealt with this yourself?
Well, I will tell you a little story. For our experiences, Trevor, should be the same. I grew up in Vengere myself, high density in Rusape. So as young people, when we heard there was a funeral, I'll tell you, to be honest, we'll be scared. We'll be worried. Are we going to die as well? If mom goes there, will mom come back? And then we avoided the route. We knew, because in Vengere we have one cemetery called Silverbo. So we knew the route that goes there. So if there's a funeral, you make sure you don't play around that route. So a few years ago then, when I became part of Nyaradzo, I remember telling Philip that this is something that I never thought. God forbid my mom would think today. But now that I'm in the industry and I see the faces of people when they come here and we comfort them, I believe myself that most of the people that work in the funeral industry, just like people that run churches or religious pastors, it's a calling, Trevor. You have to have the empathy. It has to come from within. And growing up from that little boy who was scared, now I'm able to stand in front of people and tell them that everything is going to be all right. Demystify death. We called this place Nyaradzo House because it's not a funeral parlor, Trevor. The day you guys walked in, I could tell your team was going everywhere in the rooms. I think they were expecting to find a body somewhere. But Now they're comfortable. I see, they're making breakfast and all that.
all over the place.
All over the place.
It's a home. It's a home.
So what Nyaradzo has done in the industry is to demystify death, to say, this is something which will come sooner or later. You need to prepare for it through our funeral policies, our products.
Do you think about death yourself? I do think about death. I was asking the team before we started recording with you that, are you guys ready for death? And I've come to a point where I am ready for death. I do think about my death. And I think it's a good thing to think in the morning, you look at yourself in the mirror and say, one day I'm going to be gone.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that because it's a process that we all go through. Do you think about that?
Yes. I'll take you to one of the books I'm reading. I know you've got a section where you ask me about books. But you see, Die Empty. This is a book that I read a few years ago. It talks about, Trevor, about you living your life without fear, taking risks, and emptying your head, reaching your potential. And then when you look back on your last breath, you say, I've been here, I've done that, I achieved this, now I'm ready to go. Most of us live an unfulfilled life, wishes that we could have been someone, we could have done this. So those are the things that normally haunt us at the end, I think. Because if you have always listened to your heart, followed your dreams, tried hard at the things you are good at, because everyone has got something that they're good at. But half the time when you speak to the young people or to even adults, they'll tell you, I wish I could actually run something. I'm capable of doing this. But they live their life without actually fulfilling that. So you can imagine on their deathbed, you're thinking, I could have run a taxi business in Bulawayo. I could have been this and that. Because the difference between me and the next guy is just our thought.
Absolutely.
So I think that what Nyaradzo has brought to people is to say, this is a life for you to live.
Absolutely.
Prepare for it. Don't have surprises. It will come. But in the time being, die empty. Empty your mind. All the things that you think you can do, take them out and try them out. Take a little bit of risk. And you will see at the end, I think, a life that you can say,
fulfilled life.
I've done my part.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So Nyaradzo 2001 starts as a funeral service. Talk us through the journey in terms of the diversification that you get into. You've already hinted financial service. Just break down to the first services that you're now offering.
Right. So outside the funeral services, Trevor, the agriculture that I spoke to you about, we also into tourism, we're into logistics through our Sahwira events and lifestyle. Because I think what we then realized after a few years of operations was that we would have the largest fleet of buses that are just parked over there. We have a large fleet of vehicles that need to be serviced. So in the end, we realized we can have a workshop that actually services these vehicles. We can have buses that are used. A funeral is an event, a one-day event. So if no one is really using it, what do we do with the bus? So that then turned us into an entity we created called Sahwira Events and Lifestyle. Because lifestyle is what we go through life. And what Nyaradzo wants to do is to be able to take you through the journey to the end. So your birthdays, if you want to celebrate, come to Sahwira Events and Lifestyle. We'll provide you the services you want. A wedding.
The tents, the outdoor toilets.
The toilets.
Yeah.
So all those things, they are labeled funeral, but they can do anything else. Once you turn a tent there into a wedding, you put it up at a wedding, it's the same tent that was used yesterday. I know that we still have people who then say a Nyaradzo bus at a wedding. But when you think of it, like I said, Nyaradzo house here, it's a building, it's a bus, it's a vehicle.
And the name itself, Comforter.
Comforter. So we have grown that side of business. And in the next few weeks, Trevor, I'm excited to say, we'll be launching our Sahwira Money, which is a money transfer agency.
Talk to me about that. What's the thinking around that?
The thinking is, we have the largest network of branches. We are out in Checheche, we are out in Cholochko, we are out in Binga, everywhere there's a Nyaradzo. So what better organization to move your money across to the world, from the world, to a relative in Binga, to a relative in Checheche. People trust the brand. So we have had calls from a lot of people saying, I want to send money through Nyaradzo, what can I do? And so that has come from speaking to that group of people to say, look, we are going to offer you a service, a reliable service, where you can send money to your relative wherever a Nyaradzo branch is. They'll go and pick it up, and they can be able to service your policy, or maybe even go do groceries or other household goods that you need.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm going to stop you there. When we come back, I want us to go to the expansion outside of Zimbabwe,
Yes.
into South Africa, into the UK. I know you were saying to me as we were driving around that you're looking at the US, you're looking at Australia. So when we come back, we're going to do that. At home, please don't go away. See you on the other side.
Funerals are recognized as a shop. So if you go in the high street here, you see a funeral parlor next to a supermarket. So they are categorized like that.
Welcome back to our conversation with Lordwick Mushawa, the Managing Director of Nyaradzo UK and Europe. This is the UK series in partnership with the Nyaradzo Group. Remember, if you enjoy this episode, subscribe, like, and share. So starting off in Zimbabwe, we are sitting in the UK as a Zimbabwean company. We're proud of that. You are now also in South Africa. Talk to us about, and indeed you're thinking of going into Australia, the US. Talk to us about that expansion vision, where you are right now and how you're taking it forward.
Thank you, Trevor, for that. So after setting up in Zimbabwe, we then did a research across to Zimbabweans that were in diaspora. And we came to realize that the biggest movement of people was towards South Africa. And Nyaradzo being a solution-based company, we were getting queries from people that are in South Africa that would want the same service that they see us providing to people back home, to say, can you not also give us this service here? And with the proximity of South Africa, it was natural that we followed our Zimbabweans that had settled there, and we set up in Randburg, a big office there. So having set up there around 2016, 2017, the next movement was, where are Zimbabweans across the world? And naturally, the figures didn't lie, it was the UK. So the vision then for our group CEO was to say, wherever Zimbabweans are, we need to support them because they see the service we provide here. And that should be an entry point to any market that we're thinking of. So that led us coming from South Africa to the UK. So the UK obviously posed a little bit of a problem. It's far from home. South Africa was next door. So we started scouting around.
Talk to us about the problems that you encountered, the challenges of setting up in the UK.
Well, for starters, our Zimbabweans are scattered all over. So the logistics of where do we place this parlor? We know that when people were migrating to the UK, they were settling in the southeast. But then over time, they've moved across the UK. So it was more a coincidence because an interesting story that Mr. Matariga tells is that I was already living in Stevenage myself with my family. So he visited London and we made contact. I don't know whether he was inspired, but he gave me a call and said he wanted to come and see me. So him being a funeral guy, like I told you, I was not very keen, was I? Like, what is he thinking now?
Thinking?
Does he want me to be in the other side? So my missus then said, okay, let him come, Disekuru. So he came through, we had a meal, we had a cup of tea. Then he started telling me his vision to say, look, we are in South Africa, but we think that our next port of call will be the UK. And I think you can take this lead to run with this thing. And you've been here a few years. So the first point, we want to find a location. So naturally, I would look around where I was living.
Yeah.
So we first found a place in Stevenage, and then we bid for it. And then the community here, the businesses, were not so keen to understand our mode and our business idea. So we fell on the last hurdle when we told them we want to run a parlor. They were like, funeral parlor? What's the distinction between a funeral parlor, a funeral office, and what's category in business? Land development, town planning. Are you a supermarket? Are you... It was just
Wow.
a disaster that way. So we then engaged some lawyers, and then we were able to identify in the old statutes in the UK system.
Wow.
Funerals are recognized as a shop. So if you go in the high street here, you see a funeral parlor next to a supermarket. So they are categorized like that. So you are able to open it in a high street. But knowing that we wanted to do more, we wanted somewhere where we'll be able to bring our deceased, our loved ones. So once that fell up in Stevenage, we then started looking around, and thank God we got an inquiry about this place here. It was just a derelict, and we acquired the place in around 2018, and we started building. And 2021, just after COVID, we then opened the doors here. And since then, we have seen business grow, and we aptly named the place Nyaradzo House, because our thinking was we want this to be a Zimbabwean house away from home. So we want people to come here and be able to think of home, meet and greet, and also think about their roots and reflect on where they've come from.
You, from our being around, we get a sense that you are very connected to the Zimbabwean community.
Yes.
Talk to us about the initiatives that you are embarked on with the Zimbabwe community. I know you have an embassy Consular Day.
Yes.
You have a trade and investment fair. Talk to me about those events and the thinking behind that.
Yes. So immediately as we opened, we started getting calls again from people just wanting to come here and maybe understand what we're doing already. Nyaradzo, you're here. And because we called it Nyaradzo House, and the way we have built it, demystifying death, we found people who would come for a cup of tea, for example. They just come to say, oh, where I was passing, I saw it's written Nyaradzo here. Are you the Nyaradzo from Zimbabwe? You're like, yeah, come through for a cup of tea. So we then thought that we don't want to be outliers in having set up here. Our idea is to bring everyone to the party. So we want other companies in Zimbabwe to tap into the diaspora market that is here. So our idea was to look for events that bring Zimbabweans here and then attract other businesses, whether in the UK or in Zimbabwe, in one place to be able to sell their products or ideas. So the first event we started was the Consular Day. So we have got a very supportive ambassador, Zimbabwe's ambassador to the UK, His Excellency retired Colonel Christian Katsande. He's worked with us all the way. So he then allowed his team to come here 4 times a year and do passports, naturalize kids that need birth certificates, and other consular issues. You know, people want to ask, you know, I lost my husband, how do I get a new passport? Or they've got an estate they're dealing with back home. So we found that once we set the days, it has now become a feature of this place. So we do that 4 times a year, Trevor, and we get almost over 1,000 people coming here over the 3 days. It's just amazing. So the business in London, we're actually joking with His Excellence that he probably needs to set shop here because the traffic they get in London is just a fraction of the
what you
people
get
that
down
we
here.
are getting here. So we then moved on to the Trade and Investment Fair, which we do once a year. So when we did our inaugural...
You do it here.
We do it here. So we have had PG come here. We have had Stanbic here. We have had CBZ. We have had other companies that have come here to tap into the community. And I'm glad to say this year, our main sponsor is ZB Bank.
Wow.
So people who are interested in finding about investments back home, build a property, a loan, a mortgage, ZB will be here, and they'll be accompanied by...
What are the dates? Do you have dates yet?
Yes, the dates are actually 27, 28, 29 September, Trevor.
Okay.
So we'll be hosting them here. We have the Excellency, the ambassador also speak, and he has given us a 5th date of his team. So his team will be coming outside those 4 times I've said. They'll also be here to do passports on that day. And then in the community, Trevor, we have partnered with Zimfest, which is a big musical concert that happens in St. Albans. Almost this year with 10,000 Zimbabweans coming there. So we want to build a sense of community, a home away from home. And on the gospel side, we realize we're a very religious community, Zimbabweans. We partnered with Zimpraise team to form AfriPraise. And we held a big concert in Birmingham where we are bringing Zimbabweans who want to be prayerful.
Is that going to be an annual event? It's
going to be an annual as well, Trevor, because people are saying we need somewhere to meet as Zimbabweans, sing our songs that we grew up singing, and also the youth that's growing up to know where their parents came from and give them identity whilst they're here. So those are the 4 main events we are doing, and we think that in the next year we want to have a hub here. I think if I'll show you one of the rooms we have identified here, where we want to link up universities around here, to have young people come and present ideas of projects that they're doing. And then if we think it's something that can be taken further, we give them the opportunity or direct them or signpost them to other organizations. And people want to see someone already supported by a big company like ourselves. And then other sponsors can come in to support those ideas. So we want to have an innovation hub here for young people that are growing up here, a place that they can come, relax. We give them the internet, we give them facilities that they can brainstorm and maybe come up with something. Who knows? Our own Elon Musk
you never know.
On the way.
You need just to create the space.
Yes.
So I did cut you when you were explaining the expansion.
Yes.
Take us through. I mean, so you are in the UK.
We're in the UK, yes.
Plans for the US, plans for Australia. Shall we go there?
Yes. Thank you, Trevor, for that. So our next move is Australia. We are already in Australia. I think last year we did with the group CEO. We've been there for almost a month. So we are just identifying a place, Western Australia, which is your Perth, or Sydney, New South Wales. We are more aligned to Perth because most Zimbabweans, I think statistics show that they are settled there. So we are already selling our Sahwira International plan there, and we are doing an average of 10, 15 funerals a year of people that are being repatriated home. And then in America, we were there a bit earlier, in Texas. We just looking for a parlor there, but already we've franchised our Sahwira International plan to MKI, which is a group of Zimbabweans there that are selling Nyaradzo policies. And then the next move will be for us to have a parlor in Texas. And then because of the size of America, we might see maybe to have other smaller centers because the whole breadth of America is just across in 360 million people. So, we think our Zimbabwean population is quite sizable there. And we want to tap into that. We've got a team working in Canada that are already spreading the word and selling our products. And outside South Africa as well, we're in the SADC region, Trevor. We are operating in Namibia, we're in Botswana. We've got a partnership that's running in Malawi called Mutunzi with our dear friend Old Mutual. We also on a project to work in Zambia with a life office there. So we are not stopping. What we are doing is we just want to spread the word that your Sahwira will be there wherever you are. And our entry point to anything, Trevor, has been where Zimbabweans are.
Tell me, how much of your business is now the funeral services compared to all the other services that you're offering?
So to be honest, I think that, if our accountant was here, would give us
the numbers,
accurate
yeah.
Numbers. But I'm just a funeral
Yeah.
person. I'm thinking 30-40% remains funeral. And then we are also getting the rest from the other business units we have set up. And we think that gives us strength into the future. And we are underpinning the business through other business entities that will then support us as we go forward, Trevor.
Shall we go into innovation? I mean, how have you used technology to as an enabler in your business? Shall we go there?
Yes. So we have since realized much earlier on that with Zimbabwean spread across, we can't have our agent in every house of a Zimbabwean. We were able to do that in Zimbabwe, a bit in South Africa. But with more people being out, we have seen that technology can bring us an agent that can be 24 hours, that can be in your home. So if you start the registration process, you can go to bed, wake up, the agent is waiting for you. So we have got a microsite that people can sign in to Sahwira. We have got a virtual assistant, a chatbot that people can interact with Nyaradzo 24 hours. And our team right now are working on AI programs that can enable us to be able to interact even better with our teams and families across the world. Because we realize that people are spread out and people are working, especially those in diaspora, non-conventional hours. So having technology as the backbone of our future expansion is now key, so that we are able to process the claims when someone passes on. We are able to access through our app, which will be coming through our claims department, have your claim approved. You can also, we offer air tickets. You should have those air tickets processed in 24 hours.
Wow.
You can have your vehicle ready in Harare over 24 hours, anytime. So we think that technology is going to actually mark our existence into the future.
Wow.
And we are one of the companies that is putting technology at the front of everything that we are doing right now.
Wow. Lordwick, amazing stuff. We're talking about death, which is a real thing. It's a sad moment, but it's real. It needs to be prepared for. And death, when it happens when you are in the diaspora, it can't be an easy thing. You are in the diaspora yourself. You've been in the diaspora for a while. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, I want us to find out what it is like being in the diaspora for you, how long you've been around here, and indeed the difference between experiencing the loss of a loved one when you are here compared to being in Zimbabwe. So viewers at home, don't go away, please. Join us after the break.
We have seen as Nyaradzo, Trevor, interestingly, the mortality that's related to loneliness, the risk of being alone.
You're watching the In Conversation with Trevor UK series in partnership with the Nyaradzo Group. Welcome back to our conversation with Lordwick Mushawa. Lordwick, you've been in the diaspora for a while. Talk to me about the experience of being here and how you actually arrived here.
So maybe I'll take you back, Trevor, to my growing up and maybe my small journey.
Absolutely.
My story is not as exciting as you'd want your viewers to see, but it's a story that I always like to tell people that. So growing up in Rusape, you know, my dad was. We are originally from Mozambique, you know. Surprise, surprise. So my grandfather came through into Zimbabwe, settled in Rusape as a chef for the Cohen family. So the Cohen family that later set up Context House. So they first landed in Rusape, and they had their cook from Mozambique, who was my grandfather. So they ran a little hotel there. People who used the Harare Mutare Road would know Balfa Hotel was a very popular spot there. But the Cohen brothers were running that, and my Sekuru was chef cookie, Vanogara Kuseri. So my dad was then from that union, Sekuru Wakavozorora, Kwanya Gumbo. I don't know how he managed to marry into that family. Kwa Isoskwi kwa Gananzara. So my dad would then stay with my granddad at the hotel at the back. But obviously, I think the colonial regime did not allow the kids of the Africans to come to the front. So your life would be always at the back. But my dad, being my dad, I think, would navigate his way to the front, maybe to get some tips from the visiting white people. And he tells a story of him being a porter at the train station, because Balfa is just next to the train station. And then the mode of transport was mostly the train from Beira or trains coming from Harare. So you'd go there and carry luggage for the arriving tourists that are going to Nyanga or venturing into Manicaland. And then you would earn some few bobs there. So fast forward, he then managed to go to school. I think being a cook, my Sekuru would have had some privileges, because then it meant he was staying in the white community. He was not staying Kurukeshen, he would be staying behind the hotel in the white area. So my dad had a little flair, if I want to recall.
Yeah.
I think from learning the mannerism of
the white men
in that time. So my dad then married into the Makwanya family, where they had 4 kids, and I'm the second born. So my life was always in Vengere and Usape. That's all I knew. Toton's my born vacation. I don't know where that came from.
Join the club.
Yes. So, but that was not a hindrance. My dad, from his origins, he obviously then aligned more on my mother's side to be very Zimbabwean.
Accepted. Yes.
So by the time we grew up, I didn't know about our Mozambican origin. The guy would always say we are from Ukwa, Isoskwi, So, but I quickly then went through my primary at Vengere. It was just next door to our house. Moved to St. Mary's Magdalene in Nyanga, into Marist Brothers for my A-levels, and then quickly into university, where
University of Zimbabwe. What did you study there?
I studied a Bachelor of Accountants degree. Before I was assigned to or got a job with Art Corporation. Then it was a blue chip company as a management trainee, and seconded to Mutare Board and Paper Mills in Mutare, which was good for me because it was near Rusape. I would still go to Vengere and see my folks down there. I then worked through my accounting career before moving to Harare to head office, Art Corporation, transitioning to a bigger role with Canard Metal Box, which was a British entity or French.
Big company at some time,
Yes. And I then transitioned to Kotko when it was trying to privatize that time. So I joined Kotko as a regional accountant there, and then we merged into a private company. And then before long, I decided maybe I need to try my neck outside the country just to improve myself and to see the world as well. So I then
Was there anything pushing you, or it was more of a pull factor?
It was more a push factor to advance myself,
Okay.
Trevor. I had always said, if my grandparents were from Mozambique, I mean, we've grown up in Zimbabwe. The world is your oyster, really. You should be able to explore. So it was me just trying to see what else is out there.
So where did you go?
I moved to Germantown, Maryland, in the United States, joining Howard University for an information systems qualification. I stayed in America for about 3 years in that Washington, D.C. area, Trevor. And then in the process, obviously, to get my residence, it took forever, the applications. And I thought closer to home, the country that colonized us, maybe it's where I should start. I then moved to the UK and fast forward, and then I was able to get my status here sorted, and I worked in the accounting profession, first working for Flora Carbon as a financial analyst in 2005, I think, and then I moved to my good friend Peter Mukono. He had started a health company. I joined him as an operations director. Before then, I was headhunted by Mr. Mataranyika.
And the rest is history, as
they say.
Yeah.
And here we are today. So, like I said, maybe when I tell the story, people then yawn because there isn't much to excite. But
it's an exciting story. But tell us about what is it like for you? What's the best part of being in the diaspora and the uncomfortable part of being in the diaspora?
I think outside the weather, Trevor, it's the social cohesion that I've missed, that I miss all the time. I think these economies in the Western world were set to a very individualistic motion where you and your family, we believe in Ubuntu,
yes,
Vanu,
Unu.
family, Unu. And here, that's all missing. And one of the other things we have tried to do through the events I was telling you is maybe to bring that, because I suffered the same loneliness when I was here, missing home. You can't go and just visit someone here. Like I would do in Vengere, I would just end up at someone's door and say, hello, I'm here.
Itai, when Itai was driving me around, he says, Mr. Ncube, in this country, when somebody greets you, you know that they are lost. They want to ask for directions.
Yes,
that's how lonely this place is.
Yes. And that's the same across America, across in Australia. We have traveled. We see and we hear the same stories where the economies are driven on individual personalities and your family unit without anyone else. So, and we have seen as Nyaradzo, Trevor, interestingly, the mortality that's related to loneliness, the risk of being alone.
Suicide, I'm told. I was talking to Philip the other day, and Philip tells me that the suicide cases that you handle are very high.
They are very high. They are very high. And we have had this wave of young people that have joined through the health initiative that's here. We are seeing a trend as well, Trevor, because they are used to family life, to social cohesion. When they land here,
it's a different
they are on
world.
your own. And that has been seen through the funerals that we're doing, the domestic violence, for example, that we're seeing. And so it's quite alarming. And I'm hoping that through this forum, other social leaders in the diaspora, Trevor, can come up with initiatives to reach out to people that are crying loud for support.
And
help.
I'm told you're also witnessing high drug abuse cases, eh?
Yes, that's all related to the child growing up alone in the house. Mom is working throughout, dad is out, and the child is left to their own means. So we see the young adolescents coming and committing drug offenses, trouble with the police, and then that automatically leads to them falling off the bandwagon.
So with the big community, I gather we're talking in the UK, we're talking about 170 to 250,000 Zimbabweans who are here and all over the world. What would you say are the do's and don'ts should you be in that misfortune of losing a loved one to get the services that Nyaradzo provides? What are the do's and don'ts?
So I think the things that we have always said that we share with families is that it comes to when death has happened. We have got a Shona word that says, afanaka. So there isn't much we can do for them besides to give them the dignity. So what I've learned here is that support is there at that point. I know it might be missing throughout before, But once someone is gone, the services will be there. For Nyaradzo, we are 24 hours, and we are supported by the team in Australia and in Zimbabwe, so you can reach us anytime to say we have had a deceased. And 90% of people here pass on in a hospital. Not many people die in their home. So if it's a hospital setting, there's nothing to worry about. The hospital will look after you. And Monday to Friday, the hospitals work. So if someone passes on during the weekend, all you need to do is wait till Monday to register your death. Phone Nyaradzo. We are happy to then liaise with the hospital, bring your loved one to Nyaradzo. We do all the processes there. Those with the Nyaradzo policy, you know that everything is catered for all the way to burial in Zimbabwe. And lately, we have started doing local burials, Trevor. I think you saw we have ambulances here.
And local partners, yeah?
We have local partners. If you are in an outpost where we can't reach you, we are part of the funeral organization in the UK. So we can always call upon our partners to look after you wherever you are. So what I'm saying is, when someone passes on, we're just a phone call away. And afanaka, give them the dignity, give us a call, and we'll look after you from there as your Sahwira.
Talk to me, what's the reason behind the Nyaradzo team being tree huggers? You love trees, guys. You plant trees, you run for trees. What's the thinking behind that?
So this was an initiative from our group CEO in 2010 that I think initially we were giving trees at funerals. Of course, there's loads of stories about our trees if you go online. But the idea was that we want to do our part for the environment. So the target then, Trevor, was 500 million trees by 2026. To date, we have done about 36 million trees through our Friends of the Environment in Zimbabwe. And once we get to 2026, we want to maybe revisit the target. But we think that we set ourselves high.
They have very high targets.
But we think that we have done well with the 36 million. And I'm hoping we'll keep that target maybe to the next 5 years as well. But we think that the environment, with everything that we see, deforestation in Zimbabwe, people using firewood for lighting and cooking, we need to do our part by planting trees. And people don't realize, I know sometimes we take it for granted, but the air we breathe, the oxygen we breathe, comes from trees. And when we were building this place, Trevor, there's a tree behind over there. It's hanging over this building.
Yeah, I saw it.
So we said, this tree, typical Zimbabwean, we want to cut it off. And the council wrote us a stern letter that those trees have names. You don't touch our trees. The air you're going to breathe there is going to come from that tree. If you want to trim it, we can give you authority. But you can't ever cut a tree here without our authority. That's how other countries have done. So we want to do our part in Zimbabwe. So we've got the Friends of the Environment. I'm led by Patience Fusire, who's done very well. And 36 million trees to date, Trevor. And
that's a good number.
That's a good number.
Yeah.
And every year we celebrate with the walkathon. And this year we are doing Mutare to Chipinge. So we walk all the way to Chipinge, and then we open a nursery at a school, and then set off the school as income generation for them with the trees, that the nursery that we help them to set up. So this is us giving back to the community as Nyaradzo.
I know Philip runs for trees. Do you run yourself?
I do, Trevor. But that one is a walkathon, so I hope you can distinguish the difference there. But we walk and run. But what we want is those people who want to participate, we do it provincially. So people in the 10 provinces can take part in the walkathon.
So each province has its own walkathon.
A walkathon.
Yeah.
And then during COVID, we're able to do a virtual walkathon. So we have kept it on so you can virtually walk as well and record yourself walking wherever you are and send it to our team. But all we are trying to do is giving back to the community and supporting various initiatives in different communities to generate income as well.
Fantastic. You've already touched on the Sahwira MTA launch at the end of September.
Yes.
Do you want to give us more detail in terms of what this is all about?
So the MTA is just your transfer agents
All right.
that
Okay.
we are setting up. We want to link it to South Africa. We want to link it to where Zimbabweans are, really.
Yeah.
But the starting point of this one, end of this month, will be people in the UK sending money to relatives in Zimbabwe, through the Sahwira money, and be able to collect their money anywhere where Nyaradzo is. And then we'll also work with our partners, the banks, so you can collect from banks where we are not there. But most people, anyway, our reach is more than most of the institutions there. We'll be able to get your Mbuya to just walk to Nyaradzo in central Bulawayo, to Mutare, and collect their money without having to worry about the money that my son sent me. How will I collect it?
The Sahwira International Plan is your flagship, am I right?
That's our flagship, yes, Trevor. So I'll tell you about Sahwira International Plan. So the plan is global, so you can cover yourself anywhere in diaspora, and we are able to repatriate you back home from wherever you are. So you can sign up in the UK, you can sign up in Australia, you can sign up in America, wherever you are. And we are able to take care of you in the event of death, to repatriate you back home. For those then that decide to be buried wherever they are, but are on Sahwira International Plan, we will then work with those partners we were talking about to be able to do the local burial. The good thing is in the UK, where most Zimbabweans are outside South Africa, Nyaradzo is here, we are able to do the local funerals as well. In terms of the package itself, Trevor, so we provide air tickets. So outside the plan itself, to repatriate you, we are able to give you 2 return tickets for family to attend a funeral.
Wow.
We are able to provide a vehicle for you to use whilst in Zimbabwe. We also offer accommodation for those that have put their houses on Airbnb or rental. We can offer you accommodation. And these facilities are also available for someone visiting Zimbabwe. So if you want to hire one of our cars, we are able to also hire you out the vehicle.
When we're in Philip took me around the walk in Harare, your offices, and you showed me this beautiful car, bus-like, with bedrooms and beds and so forth, for if you want comfort in the rural areas. Talk to me about that one.
Yes, so we've got a unit, I think there are 2 of them. So maybe catering for those with the taste, we can put in a little bit of the dollars. We can, on a funeral or an event, we can bring it there. It has got a bedroom, water, kitchen, everything that caters for your needs. But in addition, for everyone else, Nyaradzo does have the hot showers, that portable showers that we bring. We've got the toilets that are running with running water. And we are able to provide tents with beds as well on a funeral or any other occasion, which is why I was saying to you, Sahwira Events and Lifestyle is just taking all that equipment we have for a funeral to cater for any event that people want to celebrate back home.
We're going to be talking after you with your embalmer. Welcome, Karen. You are the embalmer with Nyaradzo. Talk to me about why you do what you do.
Well, embalming is basically the preserving of the dead. And what we basically do is we remove as much blood and wasted fluid from the body and replace it with formaldehyde, which basically plasticizes protein in order to preserve it, and also for sanitary purposes and, of course, presentation. The reason why I do my job is what it does for me as a human. It just makes me feel like I'm serving mankind. If you think about the final moment you have with someone you love, I feel that that is the highest form of charity within itself, to give back to the community and give them that one last final moment. I don't think that you can put a price on that. So that is
the last
the main
moments
reason.
of the people that we love, when you look at them before the box goes down, those are precious moments. And your responsibility is to make that moment treasurable going forward. Am I right?
Correct. I mean, obviously a lot of changes happen when it comes to death. And we don't necessarily want to show the family.
Like in
their
an accident,
raw-
somebody's been
Yeah.
involved in an accident. What do you do with the body, with the face in particular, which is what we see?
What we would do is basically we would suture, after post-embalming, we would suture the deceased face, we would use wax, we would use clay, we would use cosmetics in order to restore them with a lifelike presentation or appearance.
We were just talking here and saying the dangerous people are those that are alive, not that are dead. Can you just unpack that statement?
No, I just said that you have nothing to be afraid of when it comes to the dead, only the living. We only fear the living.
What's the experience like working with people that deceased people?
You basically have to be able to separate yourself when you're doing a job like mine. I think like what my tutor taught me when I was a student in embalming is that the moment you feel something for that deceased person, within the moment it no longer becomes about the deceased, it's now about you, because your feelings are involved. And I mean, I don't mean that in a nasty way. It's just that's the level you have to be on to separate yourself, because I mean, we deal with traumatic cases when it comes to adults, when it comes to young adults and children and infants especially. I think you need to be able to take yourself out of that equation in order to give your best performance.
But how do you do it? You're looking at somebody who is no longer alive, and the way they look might go inside you and draw certain emotions. I mean, how do you remain not connected to that?
Well, the greatest analogy I could give you is when a soldier goes to war and he has to take a life for his country, and he takes one life and he feels something, and he takes a second one, he doesn't feel as much, and then third, it just becomes a basic repetition. As horrible as it sounds, it's
the truth.
That is what it is.
Yeah.
You become immune to that. So once you are doing your job, it becomes just like that. Like you're interviewing me. It's like, I'm sure when you first did it, you were a little bit nervous and everything else. But
I do get nervous all the time. Do you get nervous all the time, or when you're dealing with
not
in
necessarily.
your job?
No. But like I said, over time you're able to separate that, I wouldn't say human side, but that side where your feelings draw a part of you. Because remember, you only have one chance to get it right. So
in movies, one of the horror movies, some of the scenes that are supposed to be horrible is when a dead person, gets up, or when you're faced with a deceased person. Do you ever have nightmares?
No, I
because
sleep
of what
like a baby.
You sleep like a baby.
Like I said, it just comes with separating yourself. I mean, sure, there have been hard cases, but nothing that I would allow to affect me on that level. And if it were to affect me on that level, I would always take a step back.
You say there have been hard cases. Share with me what those hard cases look like.
Basically, I think the first time you embalm somebody that's your own age, I think it gives you a great sense of mortality and your whole grasp of that situation. It's for me, that was probably, when I first did that as a student, that kind of was like, wow, okay, this could be me. And that just makes you wake up. But I haven't really had anything past that.
Do you think about how many times, or do you think about your mortality? One day I'm going to die.
Yeah.
One day
every
this is
single
going to be.
day, every single day. And I think there's nothing,
Is that a good thing to do?
I believe so. I think because we've been raised in a society that thinks or treats death as a taboo. I think we are always like shying away from it when we should be kind of talking about it, because when you're a kid and you're growing up and you lose a parent or something, you don't know how to deal with that. You don't have the tools or the emotional intelligence to be able to comprehend what's going on. So I think it's important to think about death, and there's nothing wrong with it, because
none of us is going to escape death, isn't it?
No, it's our only guarantee in life. So
you say you went to school. Which school did you study the embalming?
Well, I basically went through a tutor through the British Institute of Embalmers. So it was basically a tutor's school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you are South African, hey?
Yeah.
Or you were born in South Africa?
Yes.
Talk to me about that. Where were you born in South
I
Africa?
was born in Durban, South Africa, KwaZulu-Natal on the East Coast.
You went to school there?
Yeah, I was pretty much always there, except for a few years when I was a teenager. I was in Johannesburg for a little while, but I came back to Johannesburg and then, yeah.
You decided to come over here?
Yeah.
But when did you come to the UK?
In 2019.
2019. Yeah. Tell me, this is a rude question to
Not a
ask,
problem,
but
it's fine.
still I must ask. Do you enjoy your job?
I love my job, yeah. It goes back to what I first said.
Yeah.
It's rewarding in that sense. I know that everybody that I work on it's somebody's everything. It's somebody's whole world right there. And for me to give them that last moment with someone they loved, you know, I think that's overall why I do it. It's that feeling that you're accomplishing or doing something great for humanity.
Do you ever have relatives of the departed saying they'd want to meet with you?
Yeah, I've had a few.
And
All is well. I mean, I had a barber who told me to shave his father a certain way, and I had to do that for them, and then they were happy with it. And the next thing, unfortunately, they lost their mother a few months afterwards, and they were quite adamant on having me do that. So it's always nice when you've earned the family's respect and trust, and they would only want you to put their hands on their world, basically.
what's job satisfaction for you?
For me, it's just to kind of feel like, again, I'm doing something for the greater good. It might seem quite horrifying on the surface, but when you're the one doing it and you see the results and the reaction of the family afterwards, like when they say thank you so much, I had no idea I would be able to see mom or dad in that condition again. That in itself is, you know, when you're doing something for someone that nobody else can do within their family or whatever, you know, there's nothing more satisfying than that.
Absolutely. Just walk us through what you've got here. You've got an auditorium. What else do you have in this establishment?
So Nyaradzo House is basically created in a banking hall structure. So the front part is the customer service.
Yeah.
So you walk in, you've got our reception, you've got our consultants' offices, we've got the management team in the front part. The middle part, we've got our boardroom, our bathrooms, the service area where if people want to eat when they've come here for any event, we've got a space that they can do. And then we've got the main hall, which we can use either as a chapel or a service center for any event that people want to have. When we opened here, we had Jah play for 3 days here for people.
Jah Praiser.
Jah Praiser played here. And on this trade investment, we're actually bringing in, I'm thinking Sulu or someone. So they'll be playing here so people, when they want to talk to ZB, when they're tired to talk to them, they can also listen to Sulu. And then at the back there, we have our other facilities, the morgue, the mortuary, our workshop where our vehicles are. And then this service center here is 24 hours. So people can come here at any time in terms of the services we provide.
Fantastic. We have had a wonderful time here, and it doesn't feel at all intimidating. It's very welcoming. And thank you so much, Lordwick, for the support and the access that you've given us here. And indeed, the partnership of us being able to talk to, I think it's going to be about 15 Zimbabweans in the diaspora. So we just done half of them. You know, I'm going to put you on the spot regarding books. You've already mentioned one or two interesting books.
Yes.
Our viewers who are at home love books. What 3 books would you recommend to our viewers, and why?
Right. So I tend to read 3 books at a time, Trevor.
You're like me.
So I tend to, if I get bored, I go to the other one and then come back like that. So currently I'm reading permanent record, which is by Snowden, the American
Yes.
guy that decided to skip to Russia. So he's got a book called Permanent Record. So it just sets off with how he felt working through the surveillance and the technology and what America, what he thinks was doing to humanity through that. So that's Permanent Record. And then I've got a more somber one, philosophical, called Tuesday with Maury.
Oh, you know that book. My good friend in South Africa mentioned it for the first time, and a number of people have mentioned it. It's a book I think I need to read. Tell us what it's all about.
So it's just a professor who has gone through life, and then in his last few years or days, he appears on a program on TV, and then one of his students then realized that was my professor. Oh, he's about to die. I need to visit him. And then he visits him, and then they record 14 episodes on a Tuesday of him telling his story. That's really the book.
Our stories are amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
Each one of our stories is very impactful, which is why we do what we do. Stories are very impactful.
And then
the third book?
We were talking, you and me, about China.
Yes.
When China ruled the world. So I'm reading that book because, it comes from when I first read The World is Flat, where, the author is talking about how over the years technology has flattened the world, this globalization that we're talking about. So it's interesting that China, the leap it has done from the Great March with Mao Zedong to now, it's just astronomical. So anyone who wants maybe to understand how the world has changed in the last 20, 30, 40 years, you need to read a book, any book on China. And I'm reading this one by, the name escapes me, Trevor, but it's When China Ruled the World. Your people can look
fantastic.
for that one.
Lordwick, thank you so much for creating the time for us to have this conversation, and thank you for your hospitality, and thank you for the partnership. Like you said, this is the second time that we're working together. It's two brands that see value in each other.
Yes.
Zimbabwean supporting Zimbabwean. So thank you so much, Lordwick. Allow me now to turn to our viewers who are all over the world to say thank you for your support. Remember, we are a weekly show. We are out every Monday on YouTube, 7 a.m. Central African time. And to ensure that you don't miss out on any of these quality conversations, such as one I've had now with Lordwick, please remember to subscribe, to like, and to share. We've gone a step further and created a website where all our content sits. We also love your comments below this page. Please share with us, below this video. Please share with us what you think about this conversation, where you agree or where you disagree. Until next time, cheers to you all.